Hey everybody, Mr. Wallowitz here. Hope everyone is doing well. I just wanted to present this Google Slides presentation for the end of World War I. We're going to focus a little bit more on the United States and in particular President Woodrow Wilson's view for a post-World War I world, how he views how a post-war world should look, as opposed to maybe how France and Britain want the world to look, and who they think should be punished for World War I. Here we go. Armistice. By the fall of 1918, the German army realized their hopes of winning the Great War were slim, and German leaders agreed to surrender. On November 11, 1918, Germany and the Allies signed an armistice, which is an agreement to stop fighting. Although the fighting had ceased, the two sides had yet to sign a formal peace treaty ending the war. Some of the Allies, especially France and Britain, wanted a peace treaty that would punish Germany for the war. They especially wanted Germany to accept blame and to pay enormous reparations. Wilson and the League of Nations. President Wilson had a different vision for peace than Britain or France. Wilson wanted a peace without victory, meaning no nation would be forced to take blame or be punished for the war. Wilson also had an idealistic vision for how to use the peace treaty to prevent future wars, which he laid out in his 14 points addressed to Congress. Central to his vision was the establishment of a League of Nations, an international organization that would help protect peace by providing a forum for resolving international disputes. The Treaty of Versailles. Leaders from around the world met in Versailles, France to negotiate a peace treaty in the summer of 1919. Although many nations were in attendance, it was France, England, Italy, and the United States that had the power to dictate the terms of peace. European leaders resisted most of Wilson's ideas and insisted that the treaty punish Germany by including severe reparations that would cripple the German economy. The Allied leaders did, however, agree to establish a League of Nations. This new organization included a General Assembly of all member states and an Executive Council comprising the world's most powerful nations. The Executive Council was given the power to create a court that would manage disputes between nations. As part of membership in the League, each member nation was expected to reduce its military to only what was needed for self-defense and to submit any conflicts with other member states to arbitration by the League before going to war. Senate opposition. President Wilson signed the Treaty of Versailles, but the Constitution requires treaties be approved by 2/3 of the Senate to become law. Wilson faced a tough political battle when he returned from Paris. Some senators were opposed to the treaty. A group of 12 to 18 senators, who became known as the Irreconcilables, opposed the treaty at all costs. Other senators were willing to negotiate on the treaty, but were concerned about some of the terms of the agreement for the League of Nations. These senators, led by Henry Cabot Lodge of Massachusetts, became known as the Reservationists, because they would only agree to the treaty if it included certain reservations that addressed aspects of the treaty that they didn't like. Article 10. A principal objection was to the language of Article 10 of the League of Nations Charter, which stated, "The members of the League undertake to respect and preserve, as against external aggression, the territorial integrity and existing political independence of all members of the League." Now, why do you think, now think about this, why would you think that some would be opposed to this section of the Treaty of Versailles? Most of the documents that we are going to cover in the next couple of classes will reference Title 10, or Article 10, I'm sorry. So keep that in mind as we are going through the documents. Like, why do you think that some people, some senators, would be opposed to the language here in Article 10? Wilson's battle with the Senate. Had Wilson been willing to compromise with the reservationists on the language of the treaty, it would likely have passed. However, he was unwilling to make even small symbolic changes. Rather than compromise, Wilson went on a nationwide speaking tour to drum up support for the treaty. However, Wilson fell ill during the tour and returned to Washington, D.C., where he suffered a debilitating stroke that would leave him physically and mentally impaired for the rest of his presidency. Wilson was never able to muster the political capital needed to bend the Senate to his will. The Senate voted on the treaty 3 times during the remainder of Wilson's final term in office, rejecting it each time. The Treaty of Versailles was never ratified by the Senate, and the United States never joined the 63 countries that did join the League of Nations. The central historical question today, or in our research, our assignment with these documents, to examine documents from the time to answer this question: why did senators oppose joining the League of Nations in 1919?